Good evening. Tonight, Canada and China are celebrating a 25-year relationship. And on this silver anniversary, the question is, will Canadians respect themselves in the morning? Premier Li Peng is here representing an old and cultured nation and an important power in this world. But there is a side of China Premier Li would rather the world did not see. And one man has devoted his entire life to exposing it. Harry Wu, a Chinese-born American, is a thorn in Li Peng's side, his fiercest critic. Harry Wu's credentials? He has spent 19 years in Chinese prison camps.
I'll be frank with you. In a camp, many years, I just like a beast.
A beast?
Yeah. Beast means I just want to find some food and survive.
Did you allow yourself in those 19 years to dream of freedom?
I dream it sometimes. What is my dream? If I'm free, one day I go to the beach, way up, fly my kite. And then if the kite is way, way up, I cut the string, let it go. This is my dream.
Wu got his dream. He settled in California in 1985, 6 years after his prison sentence ended. But he could not forget the nightmare of his past. Harry Wu was born into a wealthy banker's family in Shanghai in 1937. His ambition to become a geologist was cut short because Wu made a terrible mistake. As a student, he publicly criticized the Communist Party. For this, he was jailed at 23. The sentence lasted 19 years. Wu became an inmate of the largest concentration camp system in the world. He joined the millions imprisoned since the revolution. That experience drove Wu to start a research foundation in California, where he's put together the most extensive documentation of the abuses of the Chinese labor camp system. For Harry Wu, it's become a mission. In 1991, Wu did something very dangerous. He packed a hidden camera and slipped back into China. Your life was returned to you. You were released. It's hard to understand why, after getting this gift back, you would jeopardize your life by returning to China with a hidden camera. Why?
The purpose maybe is very simple. Everybody knows the words G-U-L-A-G, Gulag. Gulag means Soviet Union political violence.
And Gulag it's become an anglicized word almost. Yeah. We know what it means.
I hope the L-A-O-G-A-I, Laogai, sooner or later become English word. We can find it in Oxford Dictionary.
And Laogai is?
Chinese Communist political violence. And under that term, millions of people pass away. I've survived, and I have to tell the people, I'm one of the 1 million, one of the several millions, one of the 10 millions, we don't know. I just want to say, maybe I'm remove myself like a piece of bricks, a piece of the brick of the Great Wall. I removed it, and you can throw that hole, look inside, beyond the Great Wall.
Wu collected the first video evidence of China's 1,000 forced labor camps. Inmates marched off to work in factories and fields. Wu found the conditions inhuman.
If you're working in the farm, every morning when the sun rising, you get up. When the sun set down, you come back, labor in the field. And then in the evening, every day have 2 hours so-called thought reform meeting.
Thought reform.
Thought reform. Everybody confessed, forced to admit your crime, and you never can say, I'm innocent. If your labor quarter cannot be completed, your food will be reduced or removed. All the time you go to labor 30 days a month.
How many people do you guess today are in these labor camps?
Today, under the Laogai, probably 8 million.
Wu's most shocking claim, that death row prisoners are farmed for their body parts. The Chinese authorities are selling organs for transplants from freshly executed inmates. In 1994, Wu and a BBC producer visited hospitals posing as potential buyers. They secretly recorded their conversations with hospital officials.
The quality of our kidneys is better than in America because we can remove the kidney fast and at the appropriate time. Basically, as soon as we know the donor is brain dead, we can get at the kidney with the minimum fuss. And we can guarantee several kidneys in 1 month. The distance between where we remove the kidney and the transplant is short. We can do it all in less than 10 hours. In America, it takes more than 20 hours.
The patient, Chinese patient, is very clear. Say, yeah, I know it. My kidneys come from executed prisoners. They executed in 11 o'clock in the morning, about 40 minutes away from my hospital, and I got the surgery afternoon 2 p.m. He said, don't worry, very good quality, because the kidneys come from the young peasants, probably less than 25 years old. Very good quality. The patients know about it.
In Hubei province, they usually take the kidneys from the younger prisoners under 25 to ensure the quality is the best. They told me my kidney came from an executed prisoner because you get them fresh that way.
In North America, it would take you how long to?
1.5 years, maybe 2 years. And cheap.
Cheap?
Oh, yeah. Compared to British compared to American, it's cheap. That's why the government make money. They can buy the computer chips. They can advance their missile and sell it to Iran and Iraq. The money comes from any
Body parts?
A part of it come from slave labor products. Yes.
Well, the Chinese government says that these people are donors, that they relinquish their organ and that the families comply.
Yeah. Well, if BBC and Harry Wu are liars, why you just tell the people the truth? What is your document? What is your policy? And tell the people the number of the execution prisoners' organ has been removed, and show the consent, show the document which the family signed it. But the Chinese government denied organ excerpt from the death row prisoners. They denied there's a camp system. They say this is only a kind of vocational training program.
Vocational training program?
Yes, we help these people make mistaken people become a new person.
Why isn't there a mass revolt if there are so many people being suppressed and confined in such a way? Why don't they stand up and...
You're talking about a very large issue. This is relate with the cultural tradition. Let me go in this way to describe it. If there's a group of the frogs in the bottom of the well.
Frogs?
Frogs in the bottom of the well. They never come out of the well. And always educated by someone say, you know, what is the sky? The circle of the well. And the frogs, I think, by generation to generation, they believe it. The truth is the circle of the well is the sky. But if one day the well is broken and the frogs coming out under the sunshine, under the moon, under the storm, under the raining, what's the response from these frogs? Some of the frogs probably will say, no, this is not the sky. I believe The circle of the world is my sky.
You're telling me they can't fight for a concept they don't comprehend?
And some of them will say, now I learned the truth. The real sky is the sun and moon and star. They lie me. But the majority of the frogs will say, I learned the truth, but I'm sorry. I'm not satisfied under the sunshine and raining and storm. I only can survive in the bottom of the well. Take a while for them to adjust.
Premier Li Peng is in Canada to boost a relationship that was damaged after the Tiananmen massacre. He gets the red carpet treatment because Canada is eager to do business. Our Prime Minister, Jean Chrétien, has put out the welcome mat for Premier Li Peng. As a matter of fact, they're dining in Ottawa this evening. Do you think that is a good thing?
Please be careful. Don't let the Li Peng dirty your carpet. He is a butcher. His hands full of the blood. He is responsible for the Tiananmen massacre. You want to shake the hands? Are you?
But some would say that ostracism of China, that just closes it down. That keeps the wrong encased trade, diplomatic relations, exposes it, opens it up. Is that not a possibility for change?
Everybody talking about trade, economic development, talking about the capitalism thriving in China and benefit common people, benefit Chinese future. I don't want to argue about it. Okay, there's a positive side, but you have to look in the other side, dark side.
So are you suggesting the West should not do business with China while there is a communist government in place?
I would not say about so-called sanction or boycott, but there's no free lunch. Right? You enjoy the benefit, you have to pray something. You have to improve something, especially in political reform, in human rights. You have to do something, not a free lunch.
So if you were sitting around that table, if you had been invited by the Prime Minister to sit at the table with Premier Li Peng, what would you say? What would you contribute to that conversation?
Go to the hell. Same as me and millions of Chinese stay over there. He really responsible for the killing in Tiananmen massacre. Okay. He really responsible for that. Don't lie to the world anymore.
Harry Wu is just one voice crying out for freedom in China. There are many other voices communist officials have tried hard to suppress. The fear is with the takeover of Hong Kong in less than 2 years, they will be trying even harder, fighting one of the loudest voices of all, the Hong Kong press. Here's the National's Patrick Brown.
Every night, printing presses across China churn out tens of millions of copies of about 2,000 different newspapers. It's a country with 2,000 papers, but only one editorial policy. The Communist Party maintains tight control over every single word. The party not only tells people in China what to think, it reaches out to Chinese readers around the world with the international edition of the People's Daily, edited by Zhang Hushang.
我们呢，就是给我们的海外华人啊，要告诉他，就是这件事情应该怎么看，更好一点，更公正一点，更客观一点。
Hong Kong, which becomes part of China in less than 2 years, has many ways of seeing things, with 72 daily newspapers of its own, all of them different. The newest Hong Kong media venture is the Chinese television network, CTN, beaming 24-hour news by cable and satellite to Chinese communities around the world, except to China. And when Hong Kong is part of China, CTN hopes it'll be allowed to live up to its advertised aim of becoming a global news network, a Chinese language counterpart to CNN. Managing Director Nansun She says China will understand that CTN has to be objective to be credible.
If there are good things happening in China, we will be the first off the mark to rush to report on it. However, if there are bad things in China, and it is of importance that it be known, we would also have to be first off the mark to report on it.
Hong Kong has the freest and liveliest media in all of Asia. But it's hard to see how long that can last after China takes over, because China's leaders seem unable to tolerate even the slightest criticism, and still less ridicule.
Despots are always very afraid of humor.
Humor, says cartoonist Larry Fain, was his downfall at the South China Morning Post. He says he was fired this year because his acid attacks on Chinese leaders were too much for the paper's owner. Fain says Communist Party censors won't be needed because the tycoons who own Hong Kong media will do the job for them.
I don't think anyone's afraid that China's going to march in and they're going to shut down newspaper offices. I don't think they are. It's that the media owners themselves are all businessmen who have huge interests in China. The owner of the
There's
South
always
China
an
Morning
exception. Fain started drawing a new cartoon strip with new characters and for a new boss. And his orders this time are not to be soft on China.
His orders to me were hit the bastards hard. And by the bastards, he didn't mean necessarily people across the border, but people here in Hong Kong who are, as he put it, the collaborators and the quislings, who kiss up to China.
The tycoon with a difference is Jimmy Lai, who's contemptuous of self-censorship.
Those guys are dancing to the music before the music starts.
The foundation of his publishing business is a fortune made in retail clothing. When he wrote a magazine column insulting China's premier Li Peng, Jimmy Lai found his stores in China were shut down. His answer was to start a daily newspaper. It's a spicy mix of show business, crime, sports, and criticism of China, and one of Hong Kong's most popular papers. For Jimmy Lai, it's a matter of profit and principle.
The freedom of press is the most important part of our life. It has to be the most important part of the fight. Because if we lose the freedom, we will lose the prosperity we have. We will lose we will lose the meaning of life. I have been rich, but the feeling of being honest is much better than being rich. And I just love it. I just love to be honest. I think now the time that is to test somebody's integrity and honesty.
The challenge to integrity is keenly felt by Hong Kong journalists on assignment in China. They're highly competitive, yet highly aware there's a price for pushing too far. They cover the minute details of negotiations between Britain and China, but also report on Chinese politics. For reporter Xi Yang of the Hong Kong daily Ming Pao, the price was a 12-year prison sentence for a story he wrote about Chinese fiscal policy. Tian Ye, the bank official who was his source, was sentenced to 15 years. They were accused of espionage and stealing state secrets. In Chinese, it's called killing a chicken to frighten the monkeys, a warning to others to think twice about what they write. Since the communist takeover in China in 1949, many journalists have had to choose between prison and exile. Now in Hong Kong, some journalists are beginning to think it's a choice they may have to make as well. Television anchor Zhang Dan has experience on both sides of the fence. If she stays in Hong Kong after the handover, she'll be back where she started, in China, where she was born. She joined CTN after 5 years with Chinese-language TV stations in Vancouver. Before going to Canada, she was a journalist in China for 8 years after graduating from Beijing University.
因为我们学的新闻是党、指挥、传媒，我们是党报，是党的喉舌，这是第一我们要学的东西。我们整天都在学这些东西。
Zhang Dan fears Hong Kong journalists will lose the freedoms they have now and become more like her former colleagues in Beijing.
他们就会觉得，因为他们要是不控制、不这样的约束自己的话，他们就会觉得他们会受到麻烦。
Since 1949, Hong Kong has been home to a clutch of small magazines covering Chinese politics from exile. Banned in China now, they're sure to have trouble after 1997. This one, The 90s, is one of the most accurate. Its editor, Li Yi, sees little future for it and less for himself.
假如我留在香港，我有什么事情可以做？我也不可以做这个买卖股票的事情，也不可以做这个生意，也不会盖房子，我没有其他事情可以做，也不是做医生，也不可以看病，我唯一能够做的事情就是写写文章，表示一下意见，对中国的事情提出一些自己的看法。
At the same time, there's no shortage of applicants for university journalism courses. When these students graduate in 1998, the handover to China will already be a year old.
I think China government will let Hong Kong people have this kind of freedom of press.
I would not to write something that is to support the Chinese government, but it is not true.
We are people, and in some cases, we need to stand firm.
Youngsters planning careers as journalists are giving the future a vote of confidence. Those with more experience of China have grave doubts. Veteran magazine editor Li Yi plans to leave to join his daughter in Canada after putting his last issue to bed in June 1997.
非常清楚的，就是这里是我的家，没有错，但是有自由的地方才是我的家。 没有自由的地方不是我的家。
Most people in Hong Kong have no way of leaving and nowhere to go, and so no choice but to stay to witness whether China's rulers keep their promise to maintain Hong Kong's way of life and its freedoms as they are for 50 years after 1997. Patrick Brown, CBC News, Hong Kong.
Don't go away. When we come back, the end of the century, 4 years early at the movies.